But is the sovereign debt crisis really threatening the dissolution of the euro? Well, joining me now to discuss this is Jan Randolph, head of sovereign risk at IHS Global Insight. Now, Jan, thank you for joining us today. You're a co-author of a report that looked into this very thing. In terms of the chances of a country leaving the eurozone, what do you see that at the moment?
Well, we put our collective heads together and try to work out what was a possible scenarios, cause and effect, and detail that, and then attach a probability to that. And we came up with three scenarios. One was the first scenario, which is the most likely, is not much change. Euro stays together. They managed to fix this unusual aircraft on the wing,
right.
And that was always the case. I mean, they knew, the original designers knew of the structural problems with it, but they thought they could deal with that when the crisis struck, or turbulence struck, and it has struck this year.
So there'd be more fiscal consolidation, coordination.
Yes, part of the problem is that, the body clock is different for policymakers and markets. They work on different speeds, different clocks. That was the most likely scenario. The euro would hold together one way or another. There were two other scenarios. One where we have a fringe of a peripheral country breaking away.
Sort of an Ireland or a Greece.
Ireland or a Greece. And the triggers would be rising yields, inexorably rising yields, or a political backlash against austerity. And we're seeing rumblings of that, but there's no serious politician out there in Europe actually calling for exit yet, and we have to look at the politics as well. And
you looked as well at what would be the implications for that country. Does it look like it would be a good move for a country to break away?
It is. I think one of the things we really failed to appreciate is, the euro is more than just a currency. It is a political project, and that leaving the euro is not risk-free. But all policymakers and politicians will do a cost-benefit analysis. Things will have to get a lot tougher, I think, and we're going to have to see a rise in a new political groupings in these peripheral countries, actually arguing the case to leave. Because they cannot stomach another 3, 4, 5 years of austerity.
No, then you also looked at what would happen if one or perhaps two of these peripheral nations were to leave, and what effect that would have on the eurozone.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of a fringe fracture, as we called it, political backlash or the trigger of rising bond yields, it's basically like throwing a dice. It's a 1 in 6 possibility, or probability rather. But then we also looked at a more major situation, a more dramatic, if you like, serious, where you had a situation where you had multiple fractures on the edges, and what would happen then? For example, Spain being the big weak link. If the eurozone lost Spain, then really you're shaking the very foundations of this project, and we still forecast we'd end up with a core based around Germany.
Right.
Germany will said the euro is now our currency. It's not for us to leave, and they will always be able to take like-minded, like-circumstance countries like Holland, Austria, and Finland with them in constellation at the very core. So
no return to the Deutschmark anytime soon?
No, that's wishful thinking. For Germany, it doesn't make sense to go back to transaction costs and redenominate assets and liabilities with countries that are very closely connected to it, like Holland, Luxembourg and Austria.
OK, Jan Randolph, very interesting scenarios. Thank you very much for joining us.